Hello, welcome to Coding with Indy. In this video, I'm going to show you how to create an animated donut chart like this. This is quite simple to do. I will show you how to think about the problem and then step by step create the bits required to get the full effect. So what does the donut chart like this show? This type of chart is good to show the constituents of a whole. When I say whole, I meant whole, not whole. So let's say that you have some measure like favorite movie genres. So you asked a few hundred people and then they responded with different answers. And they all fall into one of 5 categories. Now for this example, just imagine there are only 5 movie genres. So we can compute the percentages for each of these genres. Percentage is the count of a genre divided by the total and multiplied by 100. So when you total all the percentages up, it adds up to 100. This is a key property of a pie or a donut chart. That's why it makes sense to show it as a part of a whole, in this case a donut. Before getting into how to draw a donut, most basic thing we can do is to just draw a circle and draw sectors of it for each of the slices. So now the analogy moves from donuts to pizza. Imagine you need to draw a pizza slice. How do we do it? For that we can use Flutter canvas function, draw arc. Draw arc has starting angle and a sweep angle. The sweep angle gives how large the pizza slice is going to be. So now you can probably guess how to draw all these slices. We start with 0, draw the first slice, and then we have to update the starting angle so that the next slice starts where the previous one finished. So it's a matter of adding the sweep angle to the starting angle. Okay, hold up. You may ask, you are already talking about angles, but in our dataset we don't have angles. That's true. But it's easy to convert our dataset to angles from percentages. The total value, which is 100%, represents the whole circle, that is 360 degrees. So 1% is 360 divided by 100 degrees. With this ratio, we can multiply each and every percentage of the element of the data set to get an angle. With this knowledge, we can go ahead and quickly prototype the first version. We start with the basic Flutter app and then delete most of it. Let's create a stateful widget called donut chart widget. So this is the widget that would receive the dataset. Let's create a class called data item to contain each data element. We should have a field for value, which gives the percentage, and a label to name it, and a color. That's simple enough. Let's create a dummy dataset like this and make sure that percentages add up to 100. Although we talked about percentages, it is the same if we make our data item values add up to 1. We do this manually here, but you could just as easily write a small function to validate this. And then we will pass this into donut chart widget and to the state. As always, we will add CustomPainter object as the child of this container and then create a donut chart painter class. This is a custom painter class, so we have to implement two functions, paint and should repaint. Should repaint always returns true because we paint only when there's a change. Now let's fill out the paint function. First thing to do is to compute the center, which is easy like this. Now for each data item, we draw arcs. Set the start angle to 0 and call draw arc with start angle and sweep angle. And then we need to update the start angle by adding sweep angle to it. So each of these sectors pack closely to each other. Great, now we should see a basic pie chart. Next is to draw some lines along the radius so we see the borders of each sector. We need to draw the lines starting from the center to a point on the circumference at an angle given by the start angle. For this we can use polar to Cartesian conversion. Polar coordinate is a way of defining a location relative to an origin. It measures the distance and an angle. We already have a distance, which is the radius, and angle, which is the start angle. So we can quickly convert this to a Cartesian coordinate. So we can use that for drawing a line. It is best that we create separate functions for each of these operations and then call them individually. One reason for this is that the lines won't get drawn over by the next sector, and also the code is cleaner. Now, to make it more like a donut, we can draw a filled smaller circle like this. Great, let's get the text drawing functions out and set some titles here. In order to draw the text, we need two functions. First is to measure the text. This takes in a few parameters and computes a CustomPainter object. CustomPainter object takes into account the style and the text string and lays it out inside a given width and alignment. The CustomPainter object can then be used to actually paint the text onto the canvas. We can position the text properly now that it was measured, and we know the size of the area it will be drawn. Great, so now with that, we will draw the title inside the smaller circle. So it is starting to look like something. Don't give up now, we are almost there. Now we want to draw the labels, so the angle should appear in the middle of the sector. And then we can use Draw Text Center to draw the label centered around that point. Great, how do we get the center of the sector? That's easy. We know that the start angle and the sweep angle. So it's a matter of dividing the sweep angle by 2 to get the middle. Just like before, we can use polar to Cartesian conversion to find the point. It would be nice for us to draw a background for this text label. That can be done passing a callback to the draw text centered. The callback or the lambda receives the size of the text painter object, and then we can do whatever with it. But here we will draw a filled rectangle with rounded corners. Banging! So we have all the basic bits done here. It looks like what we want at rest. But how do we animate this? Well, that's actually very simple. For animation, we will create a simple timer that runs for a given duration. During that time, it will produce ticks at the frame rate we define. So it looks like this. The timer ticks at 60 frames a second. We should also remember to dispose the timer. Now here's what we're going to do. We will create another angle called full angle. This will go from 0 to 360 in the given duration. So we compute the step for full angle like this. When the full angle hits 360, we stop the timer. Now let's pass the full angle to the donor painter too. So remember from the previous explanation, we were drawing all the slices of the pie by multiplying the percentages with 360. That's because we represented 100% by full circle. Now for the animation, we change this to a small angle which goes from 0 to 360. That is given by full angle. So it's a matter of replacing the 360 with full angle here. Just for completeness, let's also quickly draw an outer border too. It's a matter of drawing an arc from 0 to full angle. Awesome. That's all there's to it. Hope you learned something and enjoyed the video. As usual, if you like what I create, please take a few seconds to like, share and subscribe to the channel. If anything is unclear, please ask in the comments and I'll do my best to answer. Until next time.